This is Film Critics Weekly on August the 2nd, 2019. My name is Simon Thompson. On the show today, Tel Aviv on Fire, Levantosha, Them That Follow, Hobbs and Shaw, Luce, and the LAOFCS Pick of the Week, The Nightingale. Stay tuned.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies.
Hello, welcome to the show. It is Film Critics Weekly, presented by LAOFCS. My name is Simon Thompson. It is August the 2nd, 2019. A lot of movies to get through this week. If you're wondering who I am, you might know me from Meet the Movie Press. If not, why haven't you checked out Meet the Movie Press? You can find me on social media at Showbiz Simon on Instagram and Twitter. And with me are two other members of LAOFCS. First of all, Rama, who are you and where can we find you?
Who am I? I don't know what you know.
This is a very existential question.
Exactly.
Who are any of us, Rama? Who are any of us?
Well, my name is Rama. I am a YouTuber, blogger, entertainment journalist, and I have my own website and subscribe to my youtube.com/RamaScreen1.
Fantastic. And Nestor?
My name is Nestor Bentancor. I run the website desdehollywood.com. I also have this YouTube channel called Nestor Cine, where I do reviews and stuff. And I'm also a member of this great organization, and I'm very happy to be here with you guys.
It's great to have you guys on here. Fantastic. Thank you. This is my first time hosting this show, so it's slightly nervous. I usually do Meet the Movie Press, so this is very different for me. With a nice spangly Showbiz studio, which is also fantastic. Okay, a lot of movies coming out this week. We probably had the most movies coming out this week than we've had for quite a while. In case you're interested, Tel Aviv on Fire is out this week. It's a film that unfortunately we haven't been able to see. But the reviews for this one have been a little bit mixed. It's not a wide release, a little bit mixed. So I am curious to see it. I kind of like that kind of movie, but we'll see if audiences do. Levantosha is another one that's coming out this week, which is a documentary about the life and work of Anton Yelchin. Now, Rama, you have seen this one. So tell me a little bit about it and what you thought about that movie.
Yes, I had the fortune of screening this, I think a few weeks ago, and I'm interviewing the producer today later on. So I was a big fan of Anton Yelchin. I thought he was a fantastic actor. So this documentary is pretty straight up, covering from when he was a kid actor all the way to Star Trek, and as you know, his untimely death. And it covered the fact that he was a Renaissance man. The guy was just so curious about a lot of things, even dabbled into photography, even the weirdest stuff that you could think of. And the interview with his parents were some of the most, it tugs at your heartstrings moments kind of thing. And so I highly recommend this documentary for those of you Anton Yelchin fans out there. But I'm even more than that, I'm looking forward to the narrative feature film about his life. Hopefully that will happen.
Do you think that will happen? Is that something that is being discussed? Has been discussed?
Oh, it hasn't, but I think it's just a matter of time.
One thing I remember when Anton Yelchin died, as you say, he was a Renaissance man, and he was very much, he'd done a lot of movies in quite a short space of time with his career.
Yes.
But when there was the tragedy of his death, I was very surprised by the amount of reaction that it got from news media, because he was known, but he certainly wasn't a household name by the average people. How is that kind of handled, his death in the documentary?
Yeah, that was handled really well, and that it covered the fact that he, like you said, did a lot in a short span of his life and his career, and also a lot of the talking heads like Jennifer Lawrence and Chris Pine, they showed up on the documentary. Describing how their relationship behind the scenes or on the set. So that also adds to the emotion that the documentary already has for us, the audience.
Is it interesting to hear the people who worked with him and the people who were close and describing their relationships? Because it's a very different kind of relationship when you're working on a movie with somebody. Because if you have friends, you have a real friendship. But when you're working on a movie, you work together for about 4 or 5 weeks, and then you say goodbye and you see each other in the premiere or the junket, and you might not ever work together, but you kind of see each other like ships in the night. Is it interesting to hear these people who worked with him for remarkably short amounts of time, when you think about it, have such a strong bond with him?
It is interesting, and like you said, that doesn't happen often. Like you said, so the fact that they describe, and I think some of them even almost broke into tears a couple times. I think Jennifer Lawrence did in this documentary.
Wow.
And Chris Pine described like that gate took my friend. I can't believe it. That one small space on that gate. He was like so pissed off at the gate. So it goes to show that they actually bonded long after the whatever movie projects that they did, were done. So.
And Nestor, were you a fan of Anton's work?
Big fan. And talking about what you just mentioned, in the case of Star Trek, these actors had a chance to work with him for a longer period of time.
Yeah.
And I remember interviewing Zoe Saldaña for the second Star Trek, for Star Trek Beyond, and she got very emotional. Very emotional because in a case like that, they were able to spend more time with him.
Yeah.
And people just loved him. And I think that the audience really got the sense of a very emotional, a very open actor. You can kind of see through the character that kind of kind soul.
Yeah.
And he was able to play in so many genres: science fiction, action, romantic comedies, drama, thrillers, etc., etc. So it was a great tragedy. Obviously, primarily at a human level, and in the second part, more of a professional one.
It was interesting with that third Star Trek movie by the fact that his character had been popular in the first two movies, and yet it was that one that actually we really got to see Chekhov come forward and really have much more of a role in the narrative. And then he died.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh my God, you're just starting to really get the roles that match the love that audiences have for you, and it's over.
And
it's harsh.
And his talent goes beyond just those three Star Trek movies. Like if you've seen his other films as well, I think if he had lived longer, he would have won an Oscar one of these years.
Yeah.
He
was very much heading through that path. And a lot of people don't realize that he was an artist as well. I mean, I remember I would drive through Hollywood, and not long after his death, there was a exhibition that was only meant to run for about 3 or 4 weeks that his family had put on with some of his photographic work. And it ran for ages, it ran for a couple of months because people really wanted to go and check this out. And a lot of people in the Hollywood community really appreciated him as an artist as well. So you think as far as documentaries go, it's a very strong field right now. This is one that people should definitely seek out. In the theater?
Yes, I think so. And I don't know about the award season coming up in the fall, but I think it's a very powerful, compelling documentary.
Interesting. Okay, another movie that's coming out this week is Them That Follow. Rama, again, is another one that you've seen. Now, this is a movie that's already played at a number of festivals this year. It got a pretty good response. It premiered here in LA this week. Tell us a little bit about that.
I saw this at South by Southwest with Scott Menzel, and Ashley Menzel. So it was quite an LAOFCS thing gathering.
Good company.
Exactly, good company. And I actually liked it, but it was a bit of a slow burn. So you got to be really patient. It's about this community and that kind of snake handling community. One of those religions.
Another one about one of those snake handling communities.
Exactly.
My God, seriously, I'm sick of seeing these damn movies.
Come on, Hollywood.
There are more of those than Marvel movies. Outrageous.
But here's the thing. I'm a big fan of any movies that makes fun of fundamentalist religion. So that I'm biased when it comes to that kind of aspect of the film itself. But the acting, Olivia Colman is in it, and Walton Goggins is in it. And Walton Goggins is always great when it comes to backwood, backwood kind of story. So that alone, is enough to appeal to me.
So, I mean, what kind of genre would you put it into? Because, I mean, a lot of people will expect this to be kind of classified as a kind of a horror movie?
Or thriller, at least.
A thriller? Is that kind of where it fits?
I would say it's psychological drama.
Okay, interesting.
Not necessarily crossing over to thriller yet. But there's a suspenseful moment at the end of it, or the end scene. But I don't think it's like straight up thriller. It's just drama, yeah. It's about rebellious. I was like, oh no, we have to go through our tradition of doing this snake testing. No, I don't. I want to be progressive. That kind of wrestle between two mindsets.
So I'm guessing if you hate snakes, it's like the movie you should definitely avoid this week, right?
It sounds like the Democrats' debates. Being more progressive, more conservative. What's going on?
I would handle a snake differently. So it's one of these movies that I think it obviously has an audience and it got well received at the festivals. But is it one of those movies that you should see in a movie theater, or is it one of those movies that you should see but you don't necessarily need that experience?
Yeah, I don't know if you have to see it in the theaters. So this is one of those things that I was like, no, you gotta sit. No, I'm not gonna force you to see it on the big screen. I think you can wait till it comes on DVD. Definitely, yeah.
So what are the high points of it? If you had to try and sell this movie to somebody who, and I'll admit it's had very little publicity. I've not seen any sort of a lot of stuff online. I've seen nothing with bus backs even here in LA or posters at all. So for those people who have really no idea, what is a plus point? How would you sell this movie? Because obviously the studio haven't.
Yeah, that's a good question. I wouldn't know the exact answer to that. I mean, because other than Olivia Colman and Walton Goggins, it's like I said earlier, the story is very, a slow burn. It doesn't really, it doesn't really appeal to a wider audience. So I'm not sure how to sell it, properly. But I think it's still one of those movies that, if you watch it once, you'll appreciate it. But it's not like you're gonna watch it twice.
I have questions. Are the snakes on a plane? Or what kind of vehicles are the snakes in?
Snakes in a
cult.
Snakes in the backwards. Yeah.
Snakes in a cult.
Snakes in the cult.
Yeah, I want to get these mother-loving snakes off this mother-loving cult.
That's a surprise. There's a surprise coming at the end.
Surprise, Samuel L. Jackson. Do you know what? It really genuinely wouldn't surprise me if Sam Jackson suddenly turned up. So what kind of film? A lot of people go, what is it like? So if you had to try and compare this movie, Them That Follow, to another movie, what other movies is it like?
It's the one that kind of reminds me a lot of is Big Love. It's not a movie. It's a TV show.
Okay.
Remember that with
Yeah,
Bill
I do.
Paxton? I think what were the Mormons, right? Mormons, I believe. Yeah. So that community were like, oh no, we gotta stick to the religion or tradition. This is how we do things. And some people were like, no, let's kind of do astray from that. That's what it reminds me of.
And is there a moral of the story? Is there a lesson? Is there a message? Or
Yeah, but at the heart of it is there's also a bit of romance. So you gotta have love interest. So there's that. But yeah, that's usually. That's not usually. That is the crux of the Them That Follow.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's snake on snake action. So if you're a big fan of that, then that's great. Perhaps the biggest release of the week is obviously Hobbs and Shaw. So going to give a bit of time to that. We're going to come back to this movie later in the show as well. Fast and Furious presents Hobbs and Shaw. It's a spin-off from the Fast and Furious franchise, from obviously characters that were introduced in latter entries in that. I've got to be honest with you. I think this is one of the most ridiculous movies I've seen this year. I mean, it's insanely ridiculous. I was like, there are no movies that this year that I have sat there and gone literally, what? I mean, it's so beyond like being grounded in reality without it being actual science fiction. But I cannot deny that I had a huge amount of fun with this. I mean, it's stupid, but also quite genius. Okay, so Nestor on this, first of all, I can see the look on your face. I don't know which way this is going to go. Your thoughts on Hobbs and Shaw?
I think that the movie really works. What is this movie about? This is a spin-off, and it's a spin-off of Fate of the Furious, of what we saw in that movie, of that dynamic with these two characters.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that movie because they really used these actors and their charisma beyond the physical aspect. And I was looking forward to see more.
Yeah.
And this movie delivers on that. And it is using all the essential elements of the franchise.
Yeah.
But they are using more of one ingredient, that is the comedy,
Yes.
This is funnier than the rest.
But is it too much? I couldn't decide whether there was too much humor in this.
Well, I mean, this is too much, too furious, too Hobbs, too whatever. I mean, it is an overkill of everything. It is too much comedy, it is too much action, and I think that that's my main negative critique of the film. It is too long. There is no reason why this movie has to be 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Yeah.
It has the same running time of Fate of the Furious. I don't know if that was intentional, kind of to compete with Vin Diesel.
Director's cut.
I'm going to show you, So if we cut down some of those comedic scenes and But you know what? I can tell you this. For me, the worst part of the movie are when the movie tries to go away from the action and the comedy and focuses on this kind of, more sentimental aspect or more profound aspect, or when we go into the villains and we want to be serious about this organization that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So that's when the movie for me,
kind of the shift of the pace was a little bit, the tone
it's like,
was
guys,
too much of it.
Don't even try to convey kind of a message of this eco-terrorism, whatever.
Because nobody cares, ultimately.
Nobody cares.
I mean, and I'm always for, you need a good story, but ultimately no one cares. They just want to see people beating the crap out of each other and saying funny stuff.
And when the movie does that, and I think it was a great team put together.
Yeah.
I think David Leitch was the right man for this. Vanessa Kirby was a fantastic addition to this movie.
Yeah.
She is awesome. And then, again, we are using these two great stars. And when it comes to the comedy, I think that they bring something to the table, you know, the actors, but at the same time, the script is helping them. It's not the best script in the world.
No.
But if you compare what they are doing here to something like Baywatch, something like The Meg, something like Rampage, you're going to see that, the quality of the comedy is better.
Yeah.
And I think that is better than most of the Fast and Furious movies because this one has a winky, tongue-in-cheek tone consistently from beginning to end. It never takes itself seriously. So even when the comedy doesn't work, I'm laughing at them.
Yeah. No, I
so I'm
get
still
it.
having a good time.
So, Rama, your thoughts on Hobbs and Shaw?
And to add to that, the last part of the movie became a tourism advertisement for Samoa, and that's how I'm wondering, like, somebody should do research if the tourism spike after the movie's released in Samoa.
Well, yeah, there is that, but also it makes Samoa look like the nighttime and daytime like change like on a dime, because there's the final like big payoff scene, the fight scenes where it's dawn and then it's bright daylight and then something happens and it's suddenly the middle of the night with a storm again, and I'm like, what?
Climate change.
Yeah, big problem.
Everything.
But yeah, so Rama, you were saying, I mean, it is a bit like a tourism video, and again for London as well.
Exactly, and to the comedy point, I love how they roast each other. I mean, I thought Jeff Ross wrote the jokes. It was just so funny how Dwayne Johnson and Jason Statham keeps making fun of each other's size. But here's the thing: after 90, I mean, I can handle 90 minutes of one silly action sequence after another, But past 90 minutes, it's just like we're still doing this. We're still doing ridiculous. It gets a bit overboard for me.
I mean, there's all the ridiculousness in the first sort of 2/3, which I kind of bought. It was when we got to Samoa for me, and I was like, this rubbish. I can buy the other messing around. I can totally get on board with that. I just found it a little bit more difficult to do that, to get on board with that. But I mean, the spectacle was still there. It was, really good, but
I would have loved to be in that storyboard room. Okay, we're gonna have Dwayne hold on to the chain to the chopper and to the truck.
I think they got everybody drunk and literally was like, "What is the most ridiculous thing?" You have some of the best ideas when you're drunk, and then the next one they were like, "This is never gonna work." But okay, fuck, let's do it. Okay. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I really like it. Reminded me with Jason Statham of some of the comedy that he did in Spy, because I think Jason Statham's really good. Dwayne doing a bit of comedy and stuff is great. But the interplay between the two of them was absolutely amazing. But like you, I think Vanessa Kirby was really the one thing that I took away from this movie that I was like,
he's right.
She made the movie. These guys are great, but you kind of know they're going to be great. But she was just like, I knew very little about her beforehand, but I was like, so watchable. And she got the balance right in the movie, I think.
Absolutely. She was a great casting option. And talking about kind of the side characters in a way, Idris Elba, I think that, you can see the glass half full or empty there, because in one actor, you get the muscle and you get kind of the brains or that ferocity. So that's great. At the same point, sadly, he doesn't have the chance to show off in any
It's one or
way,
the other with him,
because we know if we see his work, and especially Luther, that he's an amazing actor, but sadly Luther. He's kind of reduced to just a bad guy, but
one-dimensional.
Again, he's very watchable, and I enjoy his presence. So,
but I mean, did it leave you wanting a sequel?
Yes.
Really?
I mean, not today.
Okay. No.
Give me a couple years. And,
that'd be too soon, too furious.
Yes, too soon, too furious. And the question is, what's going to happen with the other side of the franchise? Because again, they are kind of competing to see who gets more ridiculous and over the top, and
who gets more far-fetched.
So I enjoy. I had a good time. I was giddy all the time. So the more the better.
In the sequel, I was just gonna add to that. The sequel follows the generic formula of a sequel. Whether it's either you add in a potential love interest or you add in estranged family members. But this movie has both. Potential love interest for Dwayne Johnson and a bunch of estranged family members. So that goes to the generic part of the film. But I still have fun overall, definitely.
Yeah. To me, as far as summer's gone, summer blockbusters, this kind of delivered what I wanted from a summer blockbuster. blockbuster. You know, and that to me was fine.
And this closes this summer, right? This movie pretty much closes the summer blockbuster.
Pretty much. I mean, there's not a huge amount coming after
It
this.
closes time and continue.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing really in the next couple of weeks that comes sort of close to this. We've got a couple of things that are tailing off, a couple of comedies and stuff, but I think this is really the last, you know, the big summer movie with balls. And it does have balls. There are lots of jokes about balls in it too. Sorry, but yeah, if you're a big fan of ball-released humour, then this is the movie for you. Very different from Luce, which is another movie which comes out this week, which is a movie that that came out of kind of nowhere for me. This was not a movie that was on my radar at all. I watched the screener this week, and as far as really theatrical drama that plays out really well on the screen, it's always difficult. Turns out that this was an adaptation of a play that's become this film, and it plays beautifully. An amazing cast doing amazing performances. Let's talk about this for a few minutes. You guys have also seen this movie. Nestor, take the lead on this. What did you think?
You're gonna have to stop me because I love this movie so much that I could talk for 3 hours about it.
I will tell you to shut up.
Yes, and I love the film for so many reasons. If we said that Get Out was the social thriller of that year, I think it was 2017, I think Luce is the social thriller of this year. But in a way, I'm not sure if I should call it that thriller, because the movie, by design, is trying to defy labels in so many ways.
Yes.
Even in what category you put this movie, because usually genre films, if you boil them down, they are about good versus evil.
Yep.
And I'm not even sure that this movie is about good versus evil. The movie is challenging the audience from the beginning, even for you to figure out who's the good guy here, who's the bad guy. And it's provocative in the best sense of the word. It provokes thought. You are thinking about what is going on. The movie is so immersive. You are there in the character. You are pushed to confront your comfort zone when it comes to big ideas and socio-political point of view. And we all thought that, oh yeah, this is the right way to handle this kind of thing. And this movie says, is it really? There are so many questions. It's a big enigma.
It's a big moral movie, and it's about sort of the social conscience, and sometimes the correct moral decision isn't the right decision for the time. And I think for me, it was very much about challenging your own purpose, as in what you seek in a situation. You know, sometimes do you have to compromise on your own morality in order to do the right thing? And what is the right thing? Is it a right thing for yourself or for someone else, for short-term or long-term gain? I think there are so many things that are, I mean, some of it is race-related, some of it is family-orientated, some of it is society-related, some of it is personal, and some of it is bigger picture. It's a movie that I wasn't expecting, you know, at all, or what to expect, or how it was going to go. On Meet the Movie Press today, it was actually Dimitri who referred to this as almost Hitchcockian in style with the way that this is played out, because it is very much a thriller and a drama. Your thoughts on this, Rama, as well?
Yes, I agree with both of you on all account. That the way this movie, to me, tackles the topical points or themes today, like, you know, white privilege, white savior, identity, ideology, prejudice, racism. The way it does it lives in gray shades. You know, it's not simple, and everywhere you turn, or as the story progresses, you realize, because at first I thought that Luce may be a closeted sociopath, but then as I look around, like, wow, there's plenty enough blame to go around among the characters.
Yeah.
It wasn't just Luce. So I was like, if this is not nominated for best writing category next year, best adapt screenplay, then there's be like, you know, a riot.
One thing for me that was really interesting is the fact that two of the main characters, Luce and the teacher played by Octavia Spencer, are both African American. Yeah. Or African American because they by adoption for the main lead character. So even though there is a social tone, it's not about his parents are white, but you know, principal is white, and it's not a case of social justice because it's like, oh, he's a black adopted boy with a white family in a predominantly white school. What do you do? Is it a racism thing? Because the person that often he's coming off against is also non-white.
Yeah.
So I thought that's a dynamic that we just don't see in movies. It's usually, you know, a white school figure and a black student. And we don't often see black protagonist, black antagonist. We don't see that dynamic.
Which is why the movie kind of shatters your preconceived notion. Like, whoa, what do we do here? Like,
Yeah.
It used to be easier than this, but now it's hard.
And in a way, the movie works as a commentary of how minorities, and especially young African American men, are depicted on film. You know, when the character
Very much so.
There is a moment where the character says,
point.
"It feels like we have to choose between being an angel and a monster."
Yeah.
And the movie is challenging that, and it's challenging not the values. I don't think that it's challenging multiculturalism or it's challenging to have this kind of more liberal approach to some issues and to being an ally. I think that is challenging the way how we articulate those values. And we have the temptation when we see the sociopolitical landscape in the past years in particular to come up with a counter argument that is also simple, because we see the other side oversimplifying everything in black and white, and this movie says, you know what, we have to go into the complexity to really do something that helps us understand better what is good, what is evil.
And it's not a case, it looks at the thing of blind faith. We also, sometimes politically, we have blind faith. If you're one party or the other, it's like you're ride or die one party. And sometimes you have to look at it and go, in this case, my son, who I've protected predominantly for making sure that he has the same opportunities as his white sort of co-students. But it's a case of, okay, but you can't just do that. You also have to go, if he makes a mistake, how do you hold him accountable for that? There's so many things that are explored in this movie. It is absolutely incredible.
I just want to mention the acting. The acting is amazing. Wow. I mean, obviously, we are not going to discover anything new about the main three kind of more famous people.
Yeah.
But Kevin Harrison Jr., the protagonist, does an amazing job.
Yeah.
And then we have Andrea Bang and Stephanie Blake that have small roles. One plays kind of a friend of Luce, the other one the sister of Octavia Spencer's character. They have their moments to shine, and what they do is just incredible. And the movie is so affecting. It's not just at a mental level, you are viscerally affected.
Very much so.
And it is a challenging experience, and I think there's a satisfying experience at the same time.
Let's talk about another satisfying experience, a movie that comes out this week. It's actually the LAOFCS pick of the week. It is The Nightingale. Again, another very challenging movie. It's not a massively wide release, this film, but it's from the director and writer of The Babadook. If you can see this movie, if you can find this movie, go and see this movie. It's kind of a revenge story. It's kind of a gothic thriller. I don't know if I'd classify it as horror, but effectively there are terms that elements of it that could be seen as a horror. I want you guys to take the lead on this one. It really is one of my favorite films of the year this week. Okay, first of all, Nestor, your thoughts on The Nightingale?
I think that when you say go see it, I mean, you have to include a big warning here. Because, talking about The Babadook, it's not a movie as easy to recommend. It's not like, oh, you are into horror movies?
It's not an easy watch.
No.
Yeah.
So you have to be prepared for that. The movie is very brutal, and the question is it worth it? You know, to witness all of that violence and level of brutality. And I think that it depends. You know, if you're a cinephile and you can take something like that, and you can watch some films like The House That Jack built or something like that, and you're like, okay, that's fine, I can take it, go see it, no problem. But I think that the movie is a little bit repetitive in that regard. And, you know, every revenge thriller needs a trigger at the beginning. Pun intended. But I think that the movie goes to that too many times throughout the movie, especially with one character in particular. Yeah. And I think that there's a point that the villain here looks kind of cartoonish. So I would say there is a solid example of its genre, but it's not a genre-defining masterpiece like The Babadook was.
No, I agree with that. But for me, I mean, you're absolutely right about there's some quite graphic sexual violence, and you guys got the same warning as me before we watched this. It was like, there's some serious stuff in here. They referred to it as a trigger warning. Be ready for this because, you know, get past it and you'll see the rest of the movie. But it is very hard to watch. But having said that, it is not as, considering the degree of the warning that I was given, it is not as graphic as as horrible as it is. It's not as graphic as I thought it was going to be. And I get your point about the issue of abuse recurring throughout the movie. But for me, I think this, for me, was a big part of this character played by Sam Claflin, who we usually see as a pretty boy sort of actor, being, pardon my French, but a complete shit. Yeah. I mean, this guy is an absolute monster, and he goes around just raping. Well, you know, he has no value for humans or for women. They are just sexual objects to abuse and demean. So yeah, I get it is hard to watch because that happens a number of times in the movie. But also, I think that's a core part of who he is by the fact that he has no soul. I mean, the guy is a moral black hole. You know, I thought it had to be in there. You know, I'm not a big fan of sort of overt that kind of thing in a movie, but I think it had to be there. Rama, your thoughts on The Nightingale?
No, to your point, you know, because that's one of the things that I like about this film is the way it tackles colonization. Yeah, and you know, he keeps saying like, "Oh, I've civilized them." You know, I've like the whole, you know, that's his motivation. Like, "Oh, they're barbars, and now I've made them like, you know, not barbarics anymore." So
by doing something barbaric,
exactly right. So it's projection. And so there's that I feel like, wow, this is good, especially the dynamic between Franciosi's character and the I forgot his name, the one, the guy.
His name, I'm gonna tell you in just a second. Baikali Ganambar.
Yeah, because
his first movie, and he does an amazing job.
It's incredible.
It's phenomenal.
Incredible.
Because in their conversations, in their interactions, there's that, you know, it always keeps being brought up. Like, wow, you people did this. Now you people did this to me. So I like that aspect of the film, and you know, it's not like straight up revenge thriller like Jennifer Garner just picks up a gun and just blasts everybody.
Yeah.
You know, there's one point where she had that shot, and she froze, or she had that shock, or she still didn't.
There's still that humanity in
exactly.
there. But one thing you're talking about, where the indigenous tribe, as they refer to them as the blacks, they're talking about, you know, the people who come to their land to take it, you know, the Irish and the British, and he sees her as white over everything else, not knowing that white Irish and white English, what the English did to the Irish, and how she also hates this same white demon, even though she's white, and they came from kind of the same area. And I think it's really interesting. That's something, again, that is a dynamic that's not explored in a lot of movies. It's like, and it was amazing to see this interaction and their relationship build throughout the film. It was very, very powerful. It was great. No, go on.
Yeah, just that's why movies like Luce and The Nightingale present these awesome topics and complications. I think it's this is not the movie for everybody, The Nightingale, but I think to watch Luce and The Nightingale is very important for people today. It helps open your mind, so you won't be a simpleton, because you know some people are like, oh no, it's just gonna be like this and that's it. But these movies actually challenge your preconceived notions.
So here's a question for you both. A lot of people like The Babadook, and The Babadook became something which became a pop culture phenomenon.
Yeah.
If people liked The Babadook, will they also like The Nightingale? Because it is a very different beast to The Babadook.
I think that you're talking about slightly different audiences.
Yeah,
you know?
I think so too.
I think that for the bigger audience that like horror movies, and they're going to be able to appreciate that. Talking about The Babadook, this film, again, if you're more into kind of cinephile, art house, and you can take revenge stories that are very harsh, you're going to be fine, but you need kind of to prepare for that. What I really like about this film as well is that it is tackling those bigger issues, and kind of the point of their story, this kind of friendship that start to build in front of your eyes, is that they start to realize all the BS that in a way it has been imposed, you know, because they are a product of their time as well. At the beginning, she sees him as someone that is inferior, you know, and they realize throughout the film that they are both kind of in the same place. She's a second-class citizen just because she's a woman, and he's not even considered human, you know? And it reminds me of this special that George Carlin did, or a routine or something, where he was talking about those blue eyes, you know, talking about colonization, those blue eyes that spread around the world. I did all of those horrific things. So in a way, it's kind of an indictment of that thing that happened, decades ago, and at the same time, it's a response to what is going on right now. This kind
There are a lot of parallels.
This male predatory tendency that it has been,
entitlement,
called out
ownership.
in the industry.
Yeah.
And I think that it's a kind of I don't want to say violent response, but it's a very kind of energetic response to what's going on right now as well.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I agree. And I love movies that make you think and spark a conversation, and that's what these movies are, Lucy and Luce and The Nightingale. And I think to your point, it's not like you can, about Jordan Peele's movies, like, if you like Get Out, you like Us. It's like, oh, if you like The Babadook, I don't know if this is for you.
Yeah.
The Nightingale.
But I mean, it's a very rewarding watch. I mean, it's not an easy watch, but it really is a movie that gives you so much to think about. So if you can find it, it's the movie pick of the week for the LAOFCS. Really good choice actually this week. Okay, we got about 7 minutes left on the show. So in celebration of Fast and Furious presents Hobbs and Shaw, snappy title, everybody. It's the only mainstream release this week. I want to have a look at it's the first spin-off from the Fast and Furious franchise. I want to have a quick conversation about our favourite films that are spin-offs. So we've got about 5 minutes on this before we close the show. Okay, so who do you want to go to first? Let's go to...
Go ahead.
Nestor, because I really want to hear your choices on this one. Yeah. Okay, so your favourite film spin-offs, go.
It's a very short list, it gets tricky because, right now it's hard to say, is this a prequel, sequel, sidequel, spin-off, what is going on? Is Creed a spin-off? I'm not sure because we didn't get to know, Adonis before. In a way, it is, but it's also kind of a sequel, so it's hard to say. I will go with just 2 animated films.
Okay.
One is Shaun the Sheep. That is awesome.
I did not see that coming. I did not see that coming. Okay.
And Lego Batman. Lego Batman. I think Lego Batman, for me, you know what? I wasn't crazy about the first Lego movie.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it, I respected it and everything. But Lego Batman, because just, my affinity with the character, it worked better for me. So I will go with those two.
Do you know, that wasn't on my list. Damn you. Damn you. Damn you. Good choices. Okay, Rama, yours.
I guess the most recent to my memory is Bumblebee. I like that one.
Shit, that wasn't on my list either. God damn it.
Finally, right? The Transformers movie that's actually good.
Yeah, I know.
But Batman is also a close second for me. The Batman Lego, I'm sorry. Yeah, so definitely.
Yeah. I actually had a couple. Creed is on there. Sorry, Nestor.
That's a sequel.
Yeah, it kind of is a sequel. I mean, I was like, I don't know. Annabelle Creation is one for me that is a sequel to a spin-off, but it's also a prequel. For me, that's the best of the spin-offs in the Conjuring universe. Rogue One is a Star Wars spin-off. In case you haven't heard of that little indie movie. It did quite well at the box office. I was a big fan of Rogue One. I know that movie gets a lot of stuff. And here's one that's going to divide people. Freddy versus Jason.
Ooh. I saw that movie in theaters.
Yeah.
In theaters. I paid for that movie. So.
Oh, we all paid for that movie.
Yes.
In some way, we all paid for that movie. But it's so good. I mean, it's so bad, but it's so good.
That's one of those.
I agree with the first part of that statement.
I've watched that movie so many times on like cable, or like I've come home a bit drunk and I'm like, what's what I want? I was Freddy versus Jason again. I mean, it's a bit of a stinker, but I kind of love that
movie.
movie.
We are talking about The Rock, so we have to mention Scorpion King. That is so funny because.
Do we have to mention the Scorpion King?
Scorpion King. It's a spin-off prequel of. Sequel that also spawned its own sequels, so it gets insane.
It's very involved. But I do like the mention of Lego Batman. You see, I forgot about that. Bumblebee is another one. Bumblebee is a movie that really surprised me. That should have done way better at the box office. Yeah. And I think it was the failure of many of the last Transformers movies to really engage audiences that unfortunately killed it. If you haven't seen Bumblebee, that is such a great movie.
Yeah. Really good.
And it proved that Travis Knight, obviously the director who previously done a lot of stuff with Leica, can really deliver a live action show. It's a great movie.
No Minions, everybody? No?
I like the Minions movies. I gotta be honest with you, I do enjoy them. But I don't know. That's not going to be on my spin-offs. I was tempted to put in Get Him to the Greek, which was obviously a spin-off from Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
That's right.
But there's so much in that film that I really think sucks. I just couldn't bring myself to do it. I love it now more because I live in LA. It came out in London when I was living there. But yeah, this was not... it's just not a good movie. I tried to rewatch that, and there's so many things in that film that don't work.
And I think that most spin-offs don't really work. You know, we have the Burn Legacy. That's a great example. Is that those movies that are living in the shadow of something else so much, but they cannot take off and bring their own flavor to the table. So it's very risky as well.
Yeah, it's a huge risk. So, guys, we're going to run through all the movies that we've talked about on the show today. Tel Aviv on Fire, obviously not, because none of us have seen that, unfortunately. Love Antosha, Them That Follow, Hobbs and Shaw, Luce, and The Nightingale. If you were selling it to me, which is the movie that I should spend $15 on this weekend?
Luce.
I think that Luce is a better movie than The Nightingale. I mean, I appreciate both. But going back to The Nightingale, I think that in the third act, the movie kind of deflates a little bit. It loses focus and the momentum that it was having. So I think that Luce is a more round-up film and more consistently from beginning to end.
I think it's a tie between Luce and Nightingale, but Nightingale is not a movie for everybody. So how did Luce, eventually become the winner?
There'll be a huge amount of the audience that will simply, I think, people who aren't ready for the violence at the beginning of The Nightingale, who I think will just be turned off or walk out.
Yeah,
and it's a tough bridge to get over. But once you do, I find that film rewarding. I would probably say, to be honest with you, as much fun as I had with Hobbs and Shaw, and it really entertained me, I think Luce is going to be the movie for me this week that just delivers more of everything that I wanted, which is everything from performances to really, getting my brain working, as small as my brain is.
And I'm worried that the movie's gonna get lost in the shuffle when it comes to award season. So
do you know what? I fear you're absolutely right. I think it might at things like the Indie Spirit Awards and stuff like that. I think it will get. Or do you know what? If there was only a group that really wants to celebrate film and diversity and representation, if only there was some kind of Los Angeles-based online film critic society that, I don't know, would maybe support movies like this and reward, the people behind them. I don't know, maybe someone should create that. That should also have a show. Guys, thank you so much for being on the show. Next week, I'm not going to be here. Someone else is going to be in the chair. We are going to be talking about the following movies on it: The Art of Racing in the Rain, The Kitchen, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, Dora and the Lost City of Gold, and more. Guys, thank you so much for being on the show today. Really appreciate it. To remind those people who are watching, who are you, where are you from? Rama, if you could go first, please.
Yes, follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and all the social media, Rama Screen, and subscribe to youtube.com/RamaScreen1.
And Nestor.
You can find me on Twitter as Nestor Cine and also Desde Hollywood. Please visit the website desdehollywood.com and the YouTube channel Nestor Cine.
And congratulations on your recent nuptials.
Thank you so much.
Sorry, ladies, it's off the market. Sorry, off the market. You just have to look from now on. I always appreciate it. My name is Simon Thompson. You can find me at Showbiz Simon on Instagram and Twitter. You can also find me on another show here on the Popcorn Talk Network, Meet the Movie Press, which is live every Friday at 9:10, where we talk about not only the week's big releases, but we talk about the week's big movie news stories. So please do check that out. Also, really appreciate it. As always, all the shows on the Popcorn Talk Network are available here on YouTube. If you like it, leave a comment, like, subscribe, and tell everybody. We're also available on Apple Podcasts, where we have the great honor of being part of the curated Movie Fanatics series at the moment on Apple Podcasts. So thank you, Apple, for that. A wee doff of the cap. Thank you for watching the show. We hope you'll tune in again. We hope you like this. Please comment below. We want to hear from you, because without you guys watching this show, there's really no point in us being here. Have a good week, everybody. Thank you so much.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.
Views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk